Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome once again to another amazing edition of Todd Clint's SharePoint Podcast, episode 326, recorded live February 6th, 2017. I am your host and Super Bowl MVP, Todd Clint. That guy, well, I'll let him introduce himself.
Man, is that like your, welcome to the Twilight Zone voice? You had a very interesting tenor there as you kind of let in.
Very silky smooth to draw the listener in.
Or to put them to sleep. The good news is I have a really bad voice, and my name is Shane Young, and I'm here to keep the show lively and fun. So
that something, yeah. So that is us. You can reach us. I'm on Twitter at Todd Clint. You can find me on the web, toddclint.com. Man, I am all over. I'm blowing up the internet. You can find me anywhere. Shane, where can the fine folks find you?
So on Twitter at Shane's Cows, on my much more popular than Todd's YouTube channel.
Oh, Shane shut up.
And then, of course, good old Bold Zebras is always here if, you like that. You got Bold Zebras here. You got my hole-in-one picture over here. MVP, bobblehead. Yeah, lots of fun stuff.
That's I have none of those things. I still have a blank wall. I still haven't decided. I was thinking about maybe getting a mural or something painted back here. Maybe a Parisian streetscape or something. Yeah, I don't know.
Well, you've got that big, giant, 50-foot picture of me up in your bedroom. So maybe just bring that down. See if Jill's okay with you taking it out of the bedroom, bringing it down.
I was going to say, that big picture of you is important.
Exactly. Let that go.
Well, so we can't. So for folks that have been following the Shane and Todd show for many, many, many years, way back in the day, there were T-shirts and signs and stuff of Shane saying, "Be the boss of your moss." And there were stickers and T-shirts. One of our friends had one of those T-shirts, and it had Shane's picture on the back. And one of our friends would not wear it, had given it to his wife, as many tech shirts go, and she would wear it to bed at night, and this person would be laying in bed staring at Shane's face on the T-shirt and made his wife stop wearing it to bed.
But how long? I mean, it went on for months. I guess he just finally got tired of it. I even had a little soul patch back then. It was pretty sweet.
Oh, just
and if any of you are super nerds, right, or devs, same thing, right, you're big Ted Pattison fans, in that picture I was wearing one of Ted Pattison's white T-shirts. So some of the devs of the world were like, you had Ted Pattison sweat on you. Oh, my God. They were like all jacked up. Like, yep, I've had Ted Pattison sweat. Ugh.
Yeah, there are times when you can't avoid getting Ted Pattison sweat on you, but that's a subject for that would be like the Todd and Shane After Hours show. We can't go there. But yes, so the big picture of you in the bedroom will have to stay. It's got utility.
All right. Well, I see there's exactly 0 production notes. So
everything's up to date. I haven't fallen behind in 2-3 weeks, something like that.
Oh, folks, this show, when you see it in June, just know that was the kiss of death right there.
Yeah, that was it all went off the rails February 6th. Yeah. I've been doing a good job. I think I'm getting everything produced. I've been looking at some stuff. So one of the things that I wanted to do was get this out on some other podcast aggregators. Tried to get it out on Google and forgot they don't like my cover art. So they keep saying that it's not large enough, which is, again, another topic for a different podcast. And so I've played with the resolutions and things like that, and they still won't take it. So we need to make a new cover, but then what do we do? And it all ballooned from there. But we are trying.
Yeah. Well, and that's just another perfect example of, as Mark Crispin pointed out in the chat room, the title of the show should be Intros I read on a Reddit thread, right? We've got these lead-ins. Well, this one time...
Because nobody else on the internet is trolling Reddit for important content and then passing it off as their own. We would be the first people to think of that particular.
Exactly.
Gag.
Well, and speaking of things you find on Reddit, so one of our esteemed colleagues this week is going to join us at the end of the show, right?
Oh yeah.
Our good buddy Blake Olson. He wants to come on and give us stuff about the local crop report. I don't know. He's from Colorado.
Yeah. Blake, good man. We met him at a class, 100 years ago. I can't even remember when that was. Yeah.
So I look forward to a crop report, whatever that might be. Who knows?
Blake is also the guy, again, who lives, 9-10 hours away from me. Stopped in my town, 4 miles from my house, had lunch, didn't tell me until after he was gone. That Blake Olson, in case you're keeping track at home.
Gotcha. Well, that's what do you do?
So yeah, at the end of the podcast, we'll have Blake jump on, talk about the crop reports. I've grown up in Iowa my whole life, heard crop reports on the radio from the time I was knee high to a grasshopper. So I'll be right at home.
Knee high by the 4th of July, right? That's what you look for in that corn.
In the corn, yeah, knee high by the 4th of July.
So speaking of outside.
Yeah. So big news again today. February 6th. Again, I won't get this out till June, July. But this was recorded the day after the Super Bowl. Shane and I have been talking about the NFL a little bit. This will be our last one. But we just kind of wanted to talk a little bit about that game last night, huh?
Well, now wait. You said Super Bowl. I thought we agreed on we were going with a superb owl to
That's
avoid
right. The lawyers, yes, the superb owl that we both enjoyed last evening. This is correct. Yes, the NFL has some of the best lawyers in the business. Did you know that it is illegal to even discuss an NFL game without the express written consent of the National Football League? And look at us. We're just talking about owls, folks. Yeah. We are just two men who love, fowl. That's all.
Well, I mean, as much as, we talk about Satya watches the show, I'm sure that Roger Goodell watches the show as well. So,
So we probably will be okay. He'll probably
squeak by.
Yeah.
So I think, first off, who cares about the game? But, right, it was a halftime show. My favorite performer of all time, Lady Gaga, hopped up there on top of the roof, and she was dancing, and there was all these lights behind her, right? And it was really like, how did they do that? I was assuming it was laser lights bouncing off of some smoke or something. Turns out it was drones.
Hundreds and hundreds of drones.
Yeah, so I guess IBM must have written, right? Because IBM was the one that sponsored and did that, right?
Intel. Yep.
My wrong one. I own stock in both of them, so let's get both their names out there. One share of each. Hey, a baller.
Yep.
But yeah, so I wonder, did they just have to write a custom program? Were they had 25, 12-year-olds out there flying?
Yeah, they had a whole fleet of 7th graders out in the parking lot, and it went off without a hitch. Yeah, so there have been a bunch of articles written about that. Wired's got one, Vox has got one. A bunch of interesting things. So first off, the most interesting thing was that particular scene and the drone scene at the end were not live. They were recorded earlier last week. Not because of technical things, but because of legal things. Because the FAA would not allow Intel to fly drones over 80,000 people. So they waived on the whole, you can fly them that close to the airport. And these drones were little too, they're itty bitty ones. But they would not waive on the whole having 300 drones directly above 80,000 people in the stadium. So they filmed those pieces earlier last week, the beginning and the end. So that was one piece that was interesting. Another piece that was interesting was, again, there were 300 drones that they used to do all that stuff, and it was just absolutely poetry in motion. But it was all like the swarm technology stuff to the point where they even had extra drones that were just hanging off camera, and they were monitoring other drones. And if the active drones, if any of them, the lights started going out or whatever, they could swap them out, and they were smart enough to replace themselves. And it was just amazing technology. And so while I think providing me entertainment at football games is a great use of that technology, apparently they have tried to set their sights even higher and thinking of things like search and rescue missions, just have these swarm of drones just fan out and just control themselves and figure it all out and just go find people. And
why does Skynet immediately come to mind, right? I mean, you got 300 drones who are doing a coordinated effort and replacing themselves and flying and doing. And I mean, it's not bad. I mean, I'm excited they're there, but at the same time, you're like, I think this is how it all starts.
Yep, talking to each other, not talking to us. Oh, yeah. Yeah. So it was really cool how they did it. And they said they were specialized drones, obviously. We're used to the consumer drones that are, 1.5 feet, 2 foot across. These were super small drones that were just all light, essentially. Just very, very cool stuff that was pretty nice. Lady Gaga, not in my general wheelhouse of music, but I do like me some Lady Gaga, and so I enjoyed that. Another good side impact of that was she got her name, Lady Gaga, from a Queen song, Radio Gaga. So I got to educate my children about Queen and Radio Gaga. We watched the video, which was filmed in '84 when video started taking over and replacing radio. Every situation is a potential learning opportunity in the Clint household. That's what it's coming down to.
Your children have no chance to grow up normal. None.
Yep. All of my children can tell you the big four thrash metal bands. Now they know a lot about Freddie Mercury and, being from Zanzibar. So yeah, it was all very good.
And I know we've talked about it before, so I won't go on it too long, right? But just in case you guys are wondering why my children, my two boys, will be able to land his two daughters later in life, it's because they're going to be like, here, watch these videos, and all the daddy issues that those girls have. It'll be a walk in the park.
Here is the playbook, boys. Try to act like it was difficult. Yeah.
Poor girls.
It's a good time. The other one that's fun. So my oldest daughter, she's 9. I'm reading her this collection of books, the Boxcar Children. Yeah. These books took place in the 30s. And at one point, in one of the books, there's a reference to a 5 and dime store. She's never seen a 5 and dime store. So I was trying to explain to her what a 5 and dime store was. I'm like, well, it's like a Walmart, but it's way smaller. But it's like all the stuff you need for your house and just when you need to go pick something up, she's like, huh, so it's like a small mart? And I'm like, you've inherited my sense of humor, child, and I don't know that that's going to work in your favor. I just don't know.
At least she's pretty, I guess.
Yeah. But anyway, Super Bowl was great. I had no dog in the fight. I didn't care who won, the Patriots or the Falcons. I really wasn't concerned either way. But it looked like it was going to be a rout. It looked like the Falcons. I'm a Chiefs fan. And so I mainly follow AFC teams because that's how my Chiefs, go up. So I hadn't really been paying attention to the Falcons. Yep. And so I didn't really know what to think. And then the first half of that game came out, and I'm like, wow, the Patriots are perennially strong. Have been for a decade. Have been since Drew Brees got hit. and this kid that nobody had ever heard of, Tom Brady, stumbled off the bench. And so I'm like, wow, the Falcons are just on fire. They're killing these guys. I had no idea the Falcons were this good. And then the second half started. And then it was like, did you ever watch that movie from the 90s, Maverick, with Mel Gibson? So it was a redo of the old Maverick TV show from the 60s.
A Western, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yes, yeah.
So one of the great movie, go out and watch it. But one of my favorite scenes is when he comes in to play cards and these guys are like, you can't play, you're too good. He's like, I tell you what, gentlemen, I promise to lose for the first hour. And so he spends the first hour just getting beaten and figuring everybody at the table out. And then 61 minutes in, he just goes to town. It felt like that last night. It felt like a scene from Maverick.
Yeah, it was, and the memes have supported that, right? Because there's all those internet memes. At halftime, there was all the look, Lady Gaga is covering more field than the
the Tom Brady,
yeah. Old Brady's like, nah, we just slow rolled them. We're good.
And it was just, and it was so, and of course, the Patriots make people very passionate on both sides of passion. And so there were a lot of people, well, that catch wasn't good, or his knee was down, or whatever. I have long held, both for and against the teams that I follow, whether you win or lose is never decided by a single play, ever. Not a missed kick, not a fumble, not a sack, never by a single play. And so even if one of those calls would have been bad, which I don't think either of them were, they still win. They were down 25 points, the biggest gap ever in a Super Bowl victory. Nobody's ever come back from more than 10. And the Patriots are like, yeah, we got this. Or one of the memes, Brady, hold my beer. So I need 2 touchdowns and a 2-point conversion to 3. Hold my beer. Yeah.
I mean, there's no doubt denying, right, that he's the greatest of all time at this point. I think he's solidified that for me. And sorry, so speaking of, so while he's the greatest of all time for sure, the quarterback, there's also the manager, right, or the head coach, right? Is Bill Belichick the greatest of all time? I think it's a little tougher conversation. But this morning I saw a quote that Bill had that I think, this is back to life advice. So we're transitioning the show slowly into something.
Yeah, there's a lesson in everything, sure.
Right. But, somebody is asking Bill, what did he think of everything? What was he going to do next? And he's like, well, we're 5 weeks behind the other teams for 2017, right? He's not like, hey, we won the Super Bowl. I'm going to get
5 times. Breaking records everywhere.
No, none of that, right? It was, hey, we're 5 weeks behind, right? I by this point, I should have my 2017 this, and this done. And I wasted all this time in this playoffs and Super Bowls. So that just shows the mentality, right? That's how you get to be the greatest or one of the greatest, right? Is you've got this mentality of it's never enough. It's always, what can I do to get better? How can I stick to the plan? And going to the Super Bowl put him off a plan for 2017.
Yeah.
It's a crazy way to think of it, but
that is exactly, yeah. And it's almost cliche now, but Brady, I never like how the quarterback gets the single focus, good or bad, on a team's performance. Pivotal player, don't get me wrong. But I do like it. It's almost cliche at this point, but Brady, very gracious, thanked all of the other guys on the team immediately when he got up there and got the trophy, immediately, complimented the Falcons on what a great game they did. And the Falcons did play great. Don't want to take any of that away from them. But yeah, it's just... It's been a rough week for the Patriot haters. It's just been really rough.
Roger Goodell's kind of sad. Is that what you're saying?
Well, and did you? So this was it. So when all that stuff happened, he gets up there and the crowd is booing, and Jill's like, "Wow, are they all that mad about the Patriots?" I'm like, "Man, I guess a lot of Atlanta fans made it to Houston because there's a lot of booing going on." Goodell walks off, booing stops. It was all for Goodell.
Yeah, they hate him. I don't understand why, right? I follow enough of the business side of the NFL. I feel like he does a good job. He pisses off a lot of the players by enforcing the rules, but they agreed to the rules. I'm sorry that they don't like the CBA. Move on.
Yeah, he's got a tough job. And the other thing is he is the boss. I mean, but nobody cares. Everybody cares about the players. And it's tough when you're the boss and you're trying to boss around people like Tom Brady and people like, all these guys with billions of dollars and huge cults of personality and all that. And he seems to manage it. I don't know.
I think he does a good job. You know who else does a good job? It's our friend SharePoint.
SharePoint?
Yeah, the purpose of the show.
We could talk about SharePoint for a couple minutes. Yeah, we got some time. Yeah.
What are we, like 20 minutes in?
Something like that, yeah.
So this is a quick little link that Todd will put in the chat room, but 9 of 10 best intranets use SharePoint. So the Nielsen group, I guess there's someone that does like user experience, user happiness garbage. No one likes users.
Nobody.
But, yeah, so he Jeff Tepper, one of our valid listeners.
Shout out to Jeff. Yeah, maybe someday if he plays his cards right, he can be the listener of the week. I'm not promising anything, but we can see.
If he sends an email and gets in line with everybody else, maybe. Yeah. But yeah, so I posted this today. A resource group put it out. Kind of goes through a bunch of the UX stuff, a lot of those type of things. So if you're into intranet design and you actually want to kind of understand what the trends are, what's working, what's not, all that's in the report. But the really important thing in there was that SharePoint was 9 out of 10 of them. And I think the only one that wasn't SharePoint was IBM because, well, let's face it, IBM can't use SharePoint. Publicly anyway. So
yeah, and that report, I don't know if the NN group has been the ones that have done it, but we have seen these reports for like a decade, and we're SharePoint folks, so we notice these kind of things. But SharePoint always shows up in those lists. It's always a big chunk of that list, and we're a decade later, and it's still plugging along. Still, the rumors of SharePoint's death are highly exaggerated.
They are. On the SharePoint notes as well, right? It looks like Office 365 administration, it got a bunch of updates for January of 2017. So we got a link off to that.
Yeah, so all of us that speak publicly about SharePoint and Office 365 and all that, we get to redo all of our slides. So we got that to look forward to.
Yeah, it's little things, right? Like the new OneDrive for Business Admin Center reached general availability. You get more insights from Yammer. I mean, who doesn't want more Yammer? Do people still use Yammer?
I know every morning I get my coffee, I fire up Yammer and see what's going on with the world. I don't know about the rest of you, but that's how my workflow goes.
Right. I mean, I hate Slack, but I actually hate Yammer more than Slack, if that's even possible. That's how much.
Well, and you hated iPhones passionately for the longest time. Now look at you. You're swimming in them.
What are you saying? One day I'm going to be a Yammer person?
I'm saying you're a flip-flopper. Shane is a flip-flopper. That's. I was against the iPhone before I was for it.
Hey, I did not. I left Windows Phone because Microsoft said, "You consumer, go away." I mean, I was forced off of it. I don't know what else to say.
You lasted longer than most. You lasted longer than any sane man would have.
They sent me away. They told me not to buy it. What can I do?
Yep. So the admin stuff is interesting for a lot of reasons because administrators have had a tough time figuring out where we fit in this cloud world. There's less demand for guys that can install SQL and SharePoint and all that. And so these admin centers and these admin updates are part of what our jobs are turning into, is knowing how to use these tools, knowing how to get in and get things done. And so don't dismiss these things as just, web interface upgrades and things like that, because this is functionality that your business is going to expect you to know, and this is one of the ways you're going to provide value.
Yeah, well, and keeping in that same theme, right? So the other article that we have here is the right. Apparently, I just read the Office blogs all week, and that's where I got all our content from. But there is the new product capabilities, right? All that kind of stuff. This is old. Where am I at?
Yeah, that's from August, you dork.
Sorry, did you know the information that we talked about earlier?
No, but when I went to paste it into Slack, the date's in the URL.
And I was just looking for the date. Something feels wrong about this.
Yeah, so this just in, there's going to be some new team capabilities in Office 365.
So Todd and I were doing a great job of reading this really old content.
Great stuff. Great stuff. Right. So in all seriousness, though, this speaks to the fact of how fast things are moving. There are so many things going on that something comes up. We read it, 6 months ago and played with it and then just moved right along.
So today we're sharing it. The one thing in there that I hadn't noticed before, you guys probably all did because you're smarter than us, is that the new, back in August, site collection limit went from 1 terabyte to 25 terabytes. I had no idea that SharePoint Online had gotten up to 25 terabyte site collection limits.
Yeah, so somewhat tangentially to this, I was watching videos last week. And not those kind of videos, but videos from Microsoft Channel 9 kind of videos. And your friend and mine, I believe this was one of Zach Rosenfield's videos, was talking about how things were set up in SharePoint Online. And they got really deep architecture-y stuff. It was good stuff. And they talked about some of the data changes on the back end that they made and kind of opened up the ability to do things like 1 terabyte site collections and 10 gig uploads and 25 gigabyte site collections and things like that. I wish I'd have kept the URL to that particular video because that was just SharePoint Online cloud geek porn, and it's Zach. God, I love Zach.
Yeah, for those of you who don't remember, Zach is the poor guy that had to sit Todd and I down and be like, guys, I have got some great news for you, right? This is what.
Stop sobbing, guys. Come on.
Was this 06, I think, when he had to tell us this?
It was right before SharePoint 2010 came out. It was in 2009.
2009, okay. Yeah, so he was the one that got to tell us the good news that PowerShell was now going to be our lifeblood. And Todd and I, as Todd said, we cried and whined and used some words I can't use on this show. It was really, really bad. Poor Zach just kept a happy smile on his face the whole time. He's like, guys, you're going to love it.
Yeah, so we were up in Redmond for an MVP summit, whatever the last MVP summit was before SharePoint 2010 came out, and before the betas came out. And I remember Sean Livingston, another guy that you and I love and respect, was the guy who was in a big room and broke the news to all this. And we were just in shock. Like, I wanted to pick up my chair and throw it at him, but I didn't have the strength to stand. And then we started complaining, and at all the stages of grief, it was like a map. And then Zach's like, come on, guys, no, it's not so bad. You just have a seat. And he just took us off to the side, and he rubbed our heads. And yeah, absolutely got us all, turned us into the PowerShell experts that we are today. All that guy.
I know, and I mean, right, that was 09. PowerShell was pretty new back then, right? We were still rocking PowerShell 1.0.
Yeah.
And, here we are.
And nothing else used it.
No, yeah. Now we're in 2017, and people are still lined up to learn about PowerShell, right? I just remind all of you, if you don't know everything there is to know about PowerShell, you're behind the curve. Go learn PowerShell. It is so important to a Microsoft-centric world.
And what if somebody hasn't done much with PowerShell and they're like, this is a good idea, but how would I possibly get up to speed on this PowerShell thing you keep speaking of? Oh,
would you go to Shane Young Cloud, the YouTube channel, and check out my lovely PowerShell information, all my videos, and then from there, go to boldzebras.com/PowerShell and sign up for my training class? Is that what you would do, Todd?
Oh, not a chance in hell. I was thinking Don Jones and, Adam Bertram and some of those guys on the internet, the actual PowerShell experts. I don't know.
There's a lot of smarter than me people in PowerShell. But the thing is all the smart people only want to teach the really complicated stuff. Nobody wants to teach, here's how you do git command.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm that
Though
nerd.
if you're ever at a conference and Don Jones is speaking, cancel whatever else you were going to do at that time and go listen to Don Jones speak. He is so much fun. He is 10 times the presenter that Shane is. 12 times the presenter that Shane is. And just a super smart PowerShell guy. Super nice. Learned a lot from him as well.
Yeah, so the guy had made the mistake of saying a nice thing to Todd once, and Todd just won't leave him alone. I think there's a restraining order involved now, so...
Yeah, he like waved at me once by accident. He's probably waving at the guy behind me like, Don Jones loves me. And it's been, it's...
It is what it is. So also on the PowerShell note, right, so because we're all doing Office 365, the SharePoint management shell was updated again last week. So it's like version, I don't know, it's blah, 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 point one more. But I put that on this morning just to kind of check it out. Not a lot of change. I did have to uninstall and reinstall to do it. I was kind of annoyed by that. I don't know. Maybe that was just my computer being grumpy. But we went from 60 PowerShell commandlets to 64. I know, 4 whole more. And so really all they did, though, is they added 2 topics. One was a SPO STN provider. So there's now there's a new and a remove commandlet for that. And then a SPO tenant taxonomy replication parameters. Try saying that 3 times fast.
I couldn't say it. And plus, I don't know what any of those words mean. So.
I don't either.
It would all be phonetic, yeah.
Yeah. Hopefully they're somehow sharing, that whole metadata term store stuff. But I didn't try any commandlets. I didn't mess with any of them. But looks like there's just a couple of new ones.
Yeah, so I assume that, and I haven't looked at it, but you've got the idea of hybrid metadata now with Feature Pack 1, and it's being replicated from online to on-prem. I assume that that's probably part of that piece. So I saw that the headline come out today. I did not rush right out to all of my machines and install that. I kind of just use the patterns or practices stuff in the Azure commandlets these days. And I mean... It's awesome that there's 64 of them now. I remember back when there was like 40. But yeah, I have a tough time. Yeah,
that first session that you and I did talking about them, right? They're like, oh, you got to do one of those commandlets. It was 36 for that session. We're like, the hell are we going to talk about with 36 commandlets? And, 28 of them were, get you, or they were just simple gets, but you couldn't do anything. You couldn't work with the objects. You could just get some information. It was like STS-ADM all over again.
Yeah, I remember the very first time, and I think it was before you and I did it, I had done the PowerShell with SharePoint on-prem session, 100 times. And I'd done it in Australia the year before. And Mark Rhodes got a hold of me and said, hey, that one was really awesome. Everybody loved it. And we're kind of all thinking about doing the cloud. Would you do one with SharePoint Online? And I'd never touched the stuff. And I'm like, hell yeah, I'll do it with SharePoint Online. So then like 2 weeks before the conference, I start working on my presentation, like always. And I installed that thing and I'm like, where are all the commandlets at? I've got a 75-minute session. I'm going to have to spend 2 minutes on each commandlet. Yeah. So then I started doing the CSOM thing and the Azure thing. It was just it was painful.
Yeah. But like you point out, right, the patterns and practices PowerShell, that's the way to go for the SharePoint-y stuff. And then the Azure commandlets is, of course, there.
Yeah, and it's gotten much better, and there's a lot of stuff. I was telling Shane before we went online, I moved a bunch of my personal stuff into Office 365 over the last month, and I've learned a bunch of things and found some warts. And so a couple of my blog posts have been about that and some other stuff, but I've got some more of those things. But man, it's all PowerShell. I've just used the crap. It's been so great. I keep running up against these walls and having to find PowerShell to do it, and it's been a good time. Yeah, so
thankfully you're finding PowerShell instead of CSOM, right? When CSOM is the answer, that's when you're in trouble.
Yeah. So G, talk about G. That's a good one.
Yeah. Well, so right, one of the things that Todd and I talked about a couple weeks ago on the show was, with Windows 10, you get PowerShell and it's all pretty and it's color coded. Right, commandlets are color. The what do you call those actions or the parameters?
Parameters. Yep.
They're different color text in those.
PowerShell expert, folks. Watch his videos. I got the thinger with the sign and the other thinger and the what do you call that thing?
The squiggly brackets.
Names.
But so with all that, we thought that wouldn't work. Then our good buddy Dave Aykroyd said, "Hey, dummies, go install PS Readline." And so we didn't believe him, right? Because he's really kind of a shifty dude, and we just kind of don't trust him, generally speaking.
Nah.
But so Todd built a Windows 7 VM. I built a Windows 8 VM. We both went and installed PS Reline. Turns out it works. So I went ahead and made a YouTube video on installing Windows Management Framework 5.1, right? Get your PowerShell version up to 5, and then installing PS Readline. So for Windows 7 and Windows 8.1. And it's just kind of one of those things you can use to improve your PowerShell experience if you're still rocking Windows 7 or Windows 8.1.
Yeah, and so to give Dave proper shout out, he is on Twitter at Learn PowerShell. And the other thing is, it's not so much that I don't trust Dave. I don't know the man. I've never lent him money or anything like that. But I guess I just have this feeling, I don't know. It's the internet. You just never know. And turns out the internet steered us right this time. So,
hey, as I point out in my videos all the time, if it's on the internet, it must be true. So.
Yeah. So yeah, check out PS Readline. Good stuff. I was ashamed that I was able to scare up a Windows 7 box. At least Shane had an 8.1 or whatever that he.
I had to go and install it. Right. That was when I made the whole Hyper-V screw up where I forgot to give it processors.
Oh yeah, we've all been there. We've all been there in the last month. So that's a good one. So speaking of your videos and all that, you're going to be doing another one of your award-winning, world-renowned, much celebrated PowerShell videos.
Yep. The next topic I was going to cover was PowerShell. So using and storing passwords, right? Todd and I are both really bad about it. We write these scripts and we're like, yeah, just hard code the password in there. It's the fastest way to do it.
Yeah. Works. Have never not worked. Not once.
And our passwords always pass that word once. It's not like encrypting it would matter anyway. So I've been working on I haven't started the video yet, but we'll do one, and I'm going to kind of walk through all the different ways of doing the password. So I was going to show just a simple get credentials and how that works, how to store it, just to put it in your text file, plain text. And then Todd mentioned an old blog post that he had written a while back that talked about how to take that file or take your password and then write it to an encrypted file on your machine and then kind of reference that back and forth. So I don't know, you want to talk about that a little bit, how that kind of works?
Yeah, and that was a blog post. Man, I wrote that thing 3 or 4 years ago, maybe 5 years ago. Yeah. And it was, whenever I blog something, it's something we always struggle with. It's not the exact thing that I use in production, but it's enough of the code to get the idea across, and hopefully the reader will take it and mold it to their own uses. And so I had been doing some lazy stuff like putting passwords in plain text, again, just to get the concept across. But then I kind of started realizing that a lot of folks didn't have the time or inclination to change those things, and so I was maybe being a bad influence by doing that. So I wrote this blog post on how I actually do these things and figuring out how to write the thing, because we automate a bunch of stuff. You can't be a hosting company and have dozens or hundreds of SharePoint environments without just scripting everything within an inch of its life. And so we had been doing a bunch of that stuff at the time, and I was just saving out these encrypted passwords as files on servers, and then when you'd run an automated script, if it would run at midnight or whatever, it could log into your farm and do things without having your passwords in plain text. So that was kind of what that was. But again, that was 5 years ago and how we did it. Since then, so I like your idea. I've seen Brian Jackett. I think he wrote a blog post on storing them in the registry. Was another way to do it. You did it with the Windows Credential Manager. So it's the evolution. It's still a bad idea to put them in plain text, but there's a bunch of better ways to do it now.
Yeah, no, I think that's the key, right? It's just I'm going to try and cover a bunch of different ways of doing it and let people make their own decisions. Clearly there will be one that will be better than all the others, but sometimes you're like, you know what? I just don't give a poop. I'm going to put it here in plain text, and that's the solution I needed for my problem. So be it.
Yep. All right. We're getting close. We're a little over 30 minutes here. I'm curious. So we've got a couple things. I'm curious what K is. So hit that one quick, and then we'll move on to promotion. All
right. So, as I say, we got time for either K or we can bring on Blake. I mean, do you want to do K or you want to bring on Blake?
K.
All right. I mean,
if Blake had told me about lunch, it would be Blake all day and half of the day tomorrow. But he ate at Culver's just down the road. Didn't even think to save me a French fry or any of that cement mixer, concrete blitz or whatever things they make. So,
yeah, 4 miles is apparently Todd's sphere of influence. And if you're looking for his house now, you know where to search, right? Find Culver's. And he's got a 4 mile circle.
Something like that.
All right, so K was the cell phone wallet. So One of the things that I have recently switched to after a long time of kind of fighting it was my wife's idea, believe it or not, is this idea that for my cell phone case here, my iPhone, because I have an iPhone, I can get things now, actually has this little slot back here. And so I'm like, yeah, that's cute, right? Because I used to have the slap-on one for my other phone as well. But with this one, I've actually embraced the idea that, I guess I shouldn't show them, but I keep my driver's license and a credit card and a bill in there, and that's all I use now. So I don't carry my wallet anymore. I've become even more lazy than I ever was before, because now as long as I get my cell phone, I got money, I got an ID, life is grand. So that is my new life hack for everyone. It seems dumb, it seems not awesome, but I've been really happy with it.
So I switched to a money clip 10 or 12 years ago, and part of that was because of Joel getting his wallet stolen. Yep. So I figure if somebody's going to get my wallet, I ought to at least get a little rub and tug out of the deal as I reach into my front pocket. But it also keeps me honest about what I carry with me, because I can't carry a bunch of stuff because I've just got a money clip. Yep. For my phone, so I've got an Android like most civilized humans, and I had to get a case for it. I hate cases, because they're all bulky, and I prefer I've got a Galaxy S7, the non-explodey type, and it's a sleek, sexy beast just from start to finish, and I hated covering up with a case, and then I dropped it and shattered the screen and had to pay like $200 to get it replaced. So I got me a case. I've made a similar thing. I do wireless charging everywhere. I don't plug my phone in. And then I got a mount for my car, and I'm not going to take it off now, but it's one of those magnetic mounts. So I wasn't sure how that was going to work, because you got to stick a metal disc to your phone, and that's what it sticks to. But then there's this inductive charging. But I found where the charging points were inside of my phone, and I found a place inside the case to put the metal disc so that it wireless charges and just sticks to my car. I couldn't be happier. I'm just
fancy.
Yeah.
What do you use? Is it use the QI wireless charger?
Yeah, I think it's pronounced Qi, but yeah.
So I've got two of them that I don't use anymore, because my Nokia used it, but my iPhone does not. So if you talk nicely to me, I might send them to you.
Send them over. I would use. You've got my address. It's go to the Culvers, turn left, go 4 miles.
Oh, see that, folks? You just cut your search radius down. Yeah. You can find it.
Yeah, no, the Key wireless stuff is great. I never plug my phone in if I can avoid it.
Yeah, the problem I had with it, though, is it doesn't charge as fast. It's because the Nokia had the super duper turbocharge thing. Yep. So I got real spoiled by full charge in like 30 minutes on my phone. So I had a hard time with the QI after that, or the QE.
Yeah. So I will be honest. The Samsung does the quick charge, and I've got a bunch of those Anchor charging blocks. Mm-hmm. And if I do need a quick charge, I will do that, because it's the same deal. It's like 20, 30 minutes. But like on my desk and my bedside and all those places, it's all wireless.
Yeah, and those Anchor, I got the 4-port one with all the intelligence for like $20. That is the steal of the century.
Yep. And if you get them now, they got one or two. I've got a 6-port one that's got 2 quick charge things on it. Mm. I mean, the lights dim if Jill and I both plug our phones in at the same time. But I got a lot of south-facing windows, so if I have the shades up, you can't hardly even tell. But yeah, those things are awesome.
What does Jill use for a cell phone?
She has got an LG G5.
So she uses a terrible Android also?
Mm-hmm.
I'll see. Nicola had a Android, and she hated the thing.
She had it like 4 years ago, and she had a crappy one.
Hey, she hated the thing. That's all that matters.
That's fine. She married you. She's got horrible judgment. For God's sakes, man.
I got nothing. I had no arguments there.
All right. We've taken almost too much of these nice people's time. Let's go on to promotion. So you got the first one.
Oh, I was going to skip A. Right, it'll be over by the time the show makes it out. So B, right? So SP TechCon Austin. We will be there April 2nd through 5th. We're teaching some PowerShell-y stuff, some SharePoint-y stuff, some I think my plan is to take over the lightning talk as usual as well. I might just remove Dave from his MC duties completely. So looking forward to it.
We've done it before. We could do it again. Yeah, and again, I forgot exactly I think it's out there now. What things we've done. We spam Dave Rubenstein. Nice man. Puts up with way more of our crap than we probably deserve. But yeah, we send him 6, 8, 12 things, never all at the same time, sometimes not even within the same month. And I forget which 3 we landed on. But we will be there in rare form sitting on people's laps and all that kind of stuff.
Hoping to get a hug, right? The year that I got a hug was probably the best. That's really what I'm after.
Yep. So join us in Austin. We would love to see you. Go to sptechcon.com. If you sign up, you can use my last name, KLINDT, and you get, $10 off and my undying attention and love and admiration. So,
and if you use my last name, it's much easier to spell. So throwing it out there.
And you get head lice. If you use his, you get head lice. So
is that what this is?
Yeah, that's what that is. You gotta go for it. All right, folks, get out of here. We will see you next week for episode, whatever this episode is, number +1. And we will have more exciting stuff and probably won't be able to talk about football for the first time in a couple of months.
No, we'll find a way to get football in there. Don't you worry.
That's the spirit. See everybody. See you next week.
Doodles.
Bye.